what is the next
What does
5
that
years
mean?
of...
Blake Lively is a narcissistic menace. What is wrong with you? Seriously. And how has it gone undetected for so long? And then, of course, you've got Ryan Reynolds in this lawsuit blowing up at Baldoni on various occasions. Holy shit. Holy shit. I can't believe the deep shit that Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds have gotten themselves into. Man, fuck around and find out. They are finding out, and it is going to take a time machine. We need Doc from Back to the Future to whip up a DeLorean for Blake Lively to go back in time and stop herself from creating this giant fiasco that she is now mired in, and that she has dragged other people into. Ryan Reynolds, although it seems like now Ryan Reynolds is so pompous and arrogant that he dragged himself into this as much as his wife. This is really astounding. And to people who don't understand the significance of this, I saw some people online saying, oh, I'm trying not to pay attention to this Blake Lively, Justin Baldoni thing because it's really just a stupid celebrity story of some rich people problems. No, when you've got $250 million and $400 million lawsuits being flung around like this is a whole other level now. And you've got the New York Times being sued and the New York Times being accused of collusion with Blake Lively. And you have Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds, two of the most powerful, wealthy people in Hollywood who have weaponized MeToo and evidently a slew of false allegations to try to take down a burgeoning director and a production company. And that director and that production company now have hired a powerhouse attorney, and he is doing a General Sherman scorched earth march, metaphorically speaking, through the media landscape and the legal world. And he is giving Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds absolute hell. And people need to understand that this is a completely new ball game, a kind of an interesting Frankensteinian fusion of the legal world and PR that we have never seen before here, where now these lawsuits, the intention of these types of lawsuits now that we're seeing being filed with these $400 million price tags, so to speak, the intention isn't even to one day win in court, to win in litigation. It's to make a huge media splash and get evidence and arguments out in front of the public in a legal forum, which is one of the few forums that are still taken seriously in our society today, because the world of journalism and mainstream media are understood to be so completely useless and inept and biased and bankrupt. So if you want to get a message out these days, you want to defend yourself, or in the case of Blake Lively, who initiated all this bullshit, if you want to attack someone, then you file a legal complaint. In her case, initially with the California Civil Rights Commission. She did not, as Justin Baldoni's lawsuit today pointed out, she did not initially file a lawsuit, and that was because she was trying to avoid a lawsuit. In fact, avoid filing a lawsuit. See, she wanted to get her allegations in through the back door, so to speak, so she filed a complaint with the California Civil Rights Commission, and she knew that it would go public, but it wouldn't be subject to any rules of discovery or rigorous evidence standards or anything like that. And she just bet on Justin Baldoni being such a wuss, such a wimp. These nice guys, these gentle masculinity guys at Wayfarer Studios just rolling over. Well, lady, you miscalculated. Blake Lively, you miscalculated. And there is a billionaire, a fucking billionaire, bankrolling all of his legal stuff that Justin Baldoni and his team and Wayfarer have been doing. The guy who founded and is bankrolling Wayfarer Studios, the same studios that you are in a fight to the death with now. That guy, Steve Sarowitz, he's a fucking billionaire. And he evidently does not take too kindly to spoil the delusional actresses, narcissistic actresses, targeting his life's work and his blood, sweat, and tears, not to mention Justin Baldoni's and Jamie Heath's and the others who've been working with Wayfarer for years now. None of these people are going to just stand by, apparently, and let this spoiled, delusional, narcissistic actress and her husband destroy their life's work. So guess what? The billionaire is going to use a lot of money. In fact, it seems like he's willing to pay whatever it takes to put you, Blake Lively, through some very intense legal paces and to totally expose your bullshit machinations before the court of public opinion. Astounding, Blake Lively, astounding that you could have just kind of coasted on the success, the massive success of this movie. It ends with us. You were coming out of the bad PR, Blake Lively. That's what's so astounding. You were coming out of all the bad, catty social media stuff. You'd made a lot of money. You'd had this huge success with this film. You should have just gone with the tide on this. But no, you were such a narcissist. And I love how Justin Baldoni's lawsuit today points this out. Just read the introduction to it. You were such a narcissist that you could not keep a lid on yourself. You could not patiently bide your time. You had to try to scapegoat Justin Baldoni and Wayfarer for your bad PR. And it has backfired in a way that is glorious to see and also astounding. Lord have mercy. The headlines tonight that are coming out of Justin Baldoni's lawsuit. He's got pictures of the basement that he was forced into with his beautiful family and his friends because you, Blake Lively, you just couldn't abide this guy actually being at his premiere, the premiere of his movie. Well, that is the movie that you stole from him, apparently, in all kinds of ways, and stole from the editors and stole from the costume designers. What is wrong with you? Seriously. And how has it gone undetected for so long? Or, Blake Lively, have you caused problems on multiple movie sets and TV sets, but it just hasn't come out until now? Or did the hormones of motherhood give you some kind of megalomaniacal delusion? I don't understand. I don't know. But it is astounding. It's astounding. So I'm going to go over the entire lawsuit tomorrow. And I understand that other people have already done it, Popcorn Planet and Emily Baker and others. And I'm sure that they've done a great assessment and I love their stuff. But I always have my own spin on things. So I'm going to go through the lawsuit tomorrow. But I just want to say that some of the prime nuggets that are coming out of this thing are just honestly catastrophic for Blake Lively. I mean, the text where she is messaging Justin Baldoni and is basically comparing herself, she flat out says, I am the Khaleesi. The Khaleesi, the blonde chick in Game of Thrones who was this great heroine until at the end she kind of went nuts. But that's who Blake Lively thinks that she is. I am the Khaleesi. And then she refers to Taylor Swift and Ryan Reynolds as her dragons. And basically, low-key threatens Justin Baldoni with the deployment of her dragons. And of course, I really appreciate the courage that Baldoni and his team and his lawyers and Wayfarer and Steve Sarowitz are showing in alluding to Taylor Swift's interference in the making of this film. Now, they didn't come out and flat out say her name, but of course, everyone knows by the description who they were talking about, and it's being reported accurately as being about Taylor Swift. But Taylor Swift is not some big component of this lawsuit, but apparently she too was pressuring Baldoni to accede to accept Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds' vision for the film and all of their interference and changes. And apparently, Baldoni was called to a meeting at Blake Lively's penthouse. Her and Ryan was there. And Ryan, of course, got on his case and ambushed him. There were several instances described in this lawsuit, actually, of Ryan Reynolds freaking out. We'll get to that in a little while. But then Taylor Swift appears, just happens to show up, right? This hugely influential, intimidating superstar, billionaire friend of theirs. She just happens to show up and starts getting on Baldoni's case and trying to convince him of why Blake Lively's vision for the film was correct. Who the fuck are you, Taylor Swift? And people say, "Oh well, Baldoni better be careful. His lawyers better be careful because you don't want to upset the Swifties." Fuck the Taylor Swifties. Look, I got no problem with Taylor Swift up to this point. I find her generally mildly annoying, but her songs are catchy, and you gotta respect her as a musician and a businesswoman to have achieved what she has achieved. But Taylor Swift is not infallible, and she's not infallible in the court of public opinion. There are a lot of people who are tired of her, and all they need is just one good reason to dislike this girl. And so if she's going around bopping her little head in where it doesn't belong and ragging on Justin Baldoni and trying to team up with Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds and bully this guy basically with her intimidating superstardom as one of Blake Lively's dragons, then she better prepare herself, because the public doesn't have to like everything that Taylor Swift does, and they're not going to like behavior like that. So kudos to Justin Baldoni and his lawyers for putting that reference to Taylor Swift in their lawsuit. It's fucking annoying. It's fucking annoying. You go do your own thing. Go back to your Eras tour. It Ends With Us does not need your assistance, Taylor Swift. And then, of course, you've got Ryan Reynolds in this lawsuit, blowing up at Baldoni on various occasions. At one point saying to him, "How dare you fucking ask how much my wife weighs? How dare you fucking ask about my wife's weight?" Well, of course, that story was completely distorted by Blake Lively in her own complaint. She made it sound like Justin Baldoni was going around her back and was worried about how fat she looked and was trying to scheme to get her personal trainer to institute some kind of weight loss program for her against her will, under the radar. When in fact, what the case turns out to be is that Justin Baldoni had long-standing painful back issues. There was a scene originally in the script where he was going to lift Blake Lively, and he was worried that it would hurt his back depending on her weight. Now, Blake Lively flat out lied about this. She denied that there was a scene of this nature, a lifting scene in the film, but there was not a scene finally, only because she demanded that it be cut. And this is just one of the many lies and misrepresentations, dramatic misrepresentations in Blake Lively's side of the story that are then explained in Justin Baldoni's lawsuits. People say, they say to me, "Why do you quote Justin Baldoni's lawsuits and his claims, but you don't quote Blake Lively's?" Well, it's because I've read Blake Lively's lawsuit, and it's completely illogical, and it's very obviously a sham, and it makes no sense. Such as the claim that birthing video that Jamie Heath showed her of his wife's home birth, and they were working on a birthing scene in the film. Blake Lively claimed that was, quote, pornography. Well, come on, you've lost all credibility with that kind of a bullshit assessment right there. So you look them up, Google these lawsuits, read Blake Lively's complaint, read her lawsuit, read Justin Baldoni's lawsuit against the New York Times, and this recent lawsuit against Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds. And you tell me which one seems a lot more substantiated, a lot more logical. We can use our brains here, people. We can. We're allowed to, no matter what Blake Lively would have us do. And of course, now tonight we have Blake Lively coming out in a statement, her team making a statement here and doubling down, as if there's any way in hell, lady, that you doubling down is going to save you from what you have unleashed on yourself. On yourself. She says, Darvo. It's Darvo. Remember that, Johnny Depp peeps? That was the same bullshit argument that Amber Heard and her supporters used. Because what else do they have? What else do they have when they've been exposed as liars? And there's some of you out there saying, you're being too hard on Blake Lively, and why is everything that she's doing being scrutinized now? It's because she has tried to completely ruin and destroy an apparently innocent man with some of the worst lies that you can come up with, particularly in Hollywood, which is that this is someone who sexually harasses women. Blake Lively, is a narcissistic menace, a liar, or a delusional. I'm not sure. But whatever she is dangerous. And she and her husband have tried to ruin an innocent man and his family and his friends and this entire production company that only tried to be supportive of her through this whole filmmaking experience, even when she became basically an Adolf Hitler on set and was trying to take over and run roughshod over everyone. And you've got texts coming out in Baldoni'S lawsuits of editors and costume designers and various people on the show, producers, just saying, what are we going to do about this crazy woman that keeps throwing her weight around? Metaphorically there, I'm not saying you're fat, Blake Lively. Keep throwing her weight around and making threats. I mean, all of the threats that she made, apparently, constant threats, and the berating by Ryan Reynolds and the intrusion by Ryan Reynolds and Taylor Swift, apparently. I mean, come on, this thing was a nightmare. And even with all of that, even with he and his family being sent down to the basement, held in the basement for part of the premiere, and all of the attacks that Justin Baldoni got, even with all of that, he kept his mouth shut. He tried his best to appreciate the film and to promote it. It was a success. It made a ton of money. And even that was not enough for Blake Lively. She had to get her pound of flesh, so to speak. But boy, have these shenanigans come back on her. And I have not seen, as I have said, I have not seen this kind of unforced error, completely unnecessary slate of egregious errors by someone since Amber Heard. Blake Lively, you have absolutely fucked yourself and you fucked your husband. And I think you pretty much fucked your career. And it was all completely unnecessary. And even now, tonight with your statement, you double down and you ensure that you're going to get weeks and months of terrible headlines and public disgrace and derision, because there ain't no way you're turning this train around without a sincere mea culpa, which you apparently are too narcissistic to even consider. So, everybody, I am covering this case and will continue to cover it. I've also been covering developments in the Marilyn Manson Me Too hoax. And if you have no idea about that, you can check out my channel because I've got details on the whole thing there. But there was this week a 3-part documentary about Marilyn Manson and the allegations, Channel 4 documentary. And at least I'll give this to them. At least they did spend some time presenting the alternative argument here, Manson's perspective. But yours truly was in this documentary series several times. I had 3 appearances, and I thought 2 of them came off well, one of them not so much. I didn't like the context of it or the way that it was clipped, but whatever, I kind of expected that. But I am going to be talking also in upcoming days about this documentary, about the Manson case. And for those who don't know, it really is the biggest Me Too hoax, putting all others, even Amber Heard's, to shame. And it's astounding more people don't know about this crazy story. But Blake Lively, I'll say this, she's trying hard to outdo everyone in degrees of stupidity. And so far, she is succeeding. So we will see where this goes. But I will be back very soon to talk about the lawsuit, to break it down, to give you my impressions. And of course, I've got some interesting interviews on the way. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for your support. I depend on your support. I've been cranking out stuff constantly now, if you haven't noticed. And so if you're a viewer, a regular viewer, and you have never donated, well, now's the time. Links below. Bye.